Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to day 3 of theCUBE's live coverage of the Red Hat Summit here at the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Rob Strechay. We were both in the room where it happens this morning with the keynotes. NASA was there.
Yeah.
How cool was that?
It was out of this world. There you go.
Adorable.
After Chris talked about gravity, I felt like I could go there, so.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I would like to welcome back to our show, Matt Hicks, President and Chief Executive Officer of Red Hat. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Rebecca. It's, yeah, excited to be here. It's been a fun week so far. I love the NASA link too. Yeah. It's fun to get to talk about what we're doing like off planet and on planet.
And then back on planet Earth. Yeah, well I actually want you to get into a reflective mood for a second because you have been obviously at a lot of summits, first as an engineer, now of course as CEO.
Yeah.
And what is the vibe this year in particular, 2026, with this AI era really in full gear?
I think with everything you can look at it two sides. I see it as it is infinite possibilities. And I talked about it in my keynote of, it doesn't matter what role you're in, the barriers right now are as low as they have ever been to transform and disrupt and change and create things. I do accept there is a bit of like uncertainty that comes with that because everything is changing with it. But I think you see the energy on the floor, like the possibilities will usually outweigh the fear and we just have to get more people into that camp. But that I think is at the core of Summit this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, just talking to people, I have friends here who are end users and getting the feeling from them, it does seem like we're kind of at an inflection point where people are looking for ways like, to secure AI, to do AI faster, but how do they simplify their infrastructure, almost like a convergence of things coming together. How have you seen that? Because a lot of the products have kind of come that direction as well.
Yeah, I think, I always talk about there are two journeys we have to work on at the same time. One is, how do you actually make running your own infrastructure possible? And that's sort of it's the problem you want to go away. You want it to be easy. Red Hat has to make that trivially easy to use. And then you have this other side, which is, given this technology, what am I going to transform in my business with it? And you don't get to make that problem go away. And so I'm like, there's this paradox where half of the story we want to make universally accessible, GPUs, technology there. The other side is, you have to be curious and you have to learn this and you have to change business processes, but that combination is, we love it because you can start on either path. We talked about, we started our business process transformation with frontier models and worked our way backwards now into almost all open weight models. You could also start that from the other side, infrastructure up, but gives you a lot of starting points, just and a wild impact of what you can do.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about something you mentioned in your keynote, which is the state of enterprise AI, and you described it as a chasm in terms of the speed at which teams are expected to operate and the pressures on them that boards are applying to see the return on AI investment, as you say, as well as just the fact that environments are getting so much more complex, budgets have not kept a pace, and so there's this organizational reality. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think you have, from the board level down, just to compete in this environment, you have a feeling of like, we have to be able to harness what this technology can do. And so there is this top-down pressure of, whether you see it in your competition or in the market, you have to get there. So they apply that top-down pressure. And then if you are in the IT team, for the last 10 years, we have been trying to get to cloud or ending up in multiple spots, dealing with tons of technologies, but not always maintaining technical debt, and that is all crashing down on them at the same time. So I usually tell customers, we're in a back to basics mode where you have to learn how to patch your systems. 1 year ago, you might have argued the risk was okay. I know I should, it's like exercise, like I know I should be doing it, but it's okay to skip a little. AI has made that not okay to skip now. But we have a lot of capabilities, say like the core of Ansible and RHEL and these things, we can get you to patching. We talked about the RHEL extended life cycles indefinitely. So you have all of these paths to start, but I think getting IT teams they have to do two things, which is they have to learn this tooling and how it can make them move faster, and they have to drive a back to basics on maintenance and simplicity, or you just can't compete in this world. So it is a lot of change, but I think it'll make companies quite a bit stronger in getting through it. It's a lot at once for people.
Yeah, I mean, even with the hardened images and things like that, where it's rapidly being able to have zero CVEs and get to the secure, because I think, again, Ashesh talked about it a little bit even this morning, around how people are trying to figure out how to treat AI as a workload, and how do you manage that? What are you seeing from the customer asks in that direction? Because it seems like there's this tension between scale and manageability again with this, especially.
It is. We probably see it the most in RHEL, and Ashesh touched on this, where we have the ubiquitous pull at this point of give us zero CVE images, which we do. And these can be a tremendous number of builds and updates per week, but running in the most critical environments, they don't have the vulnerability exposure to them.
Yeah.
Very few customers are mature enough then, they may make that ask, but they're like, no wait, but I need that on systems that don't change ever. And I'm like, well, they're two very different needs, and we're trying to balance the multiple paths to say we can support you indefinitely on what you have. You still need maintenance, currency on that, but we can meet you on that path, but as you start to pursue these newer areas, you have to think about what's the best fit going forward, which we're biased, but in our case it's getting to those faster cycles, even if you're patching 100 times a week, knowing that you can build the maturity there, it takes a whole other class of issues off the table.
I want to ask also about something you talked about in your keynote as well, about the future of work. And because, as you said, there is a lot of uncertainty and there is a lot of fear that AI will replace you. And you talked about software developers, how their craft is changing and how they'll spend their time is changing, and how for managers, they will be judged on how well they delegate, not just to their humans on their team, but also to the agents. Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I work with a lot of engineers, and I grew up as an engineer, and sometimes there's comfort in the craft of writing code. I loved it. It's puzzle solving, it's what I did, it's what drew me to computer science. That part of the craft is probably gone, where AI can write algorithms, it can write code extremely well in areas. But the engineering thinking, if you can move beyond that to say, like, I understand you will write code in areas better than I will, but I can shape you to solve problems. Not everyone loves that shift, but that is the engineering shift. Then if you extend that to what we've seen internally, which is, if AI can write code, and anyone in our company can write code to contribute, that's a totally different challenge. When your legal and operations team is contributing code to how agents should think, your challenge then becomes, how do you shape not just AI, but their contributions into something meaningful? I do think there's a resistance to that, of like, but I love the puzzle solving aspect. I'm like, I understand, I actually did too, but I think that part's gone. But your knowledge as an engineer to build these systems, incredibly valuable, it's just very different. Then on the other side, it's, I often say the people that will be the most successful with AI, I think are the people that have the most questions. And people that know business, they know their domain, those are the ones that, they have no barriers to what they can do and change. It's just getting started. Not seeing it as, this is an engineering challenge, but this is an accounting challenge, or a legal challenge, or a sales challenge. We're going through both of those right now. It is inspiring to me to see how people are changing how those really stable domains work and the impact they can have of individuals that I probably would have never met in Red Hat that are just making groundbreaking changes to how we run. That's the power if you get both of those group change. But it's a big change for non-technical roles to embrace AI with all the good and all the faults, and for engineers to move out of the puzzle-solving domain, which I get the allure to it, it was fun, but then move into, I will shape these to solve problems.
Well, what's so interesting about what you're saying is that Red Hat has a lot of credibility because it is using all of the technology that it is also working with its customers on, and you're also going through all of these messy challenges as an organization too, of fundamentally changing how your legal department works, how your sales team works, so this is really interesting.
No, it's been a fun journey for us. Even I try to contribute code, and my rules with the teams are usually, if you see a green checkbox in the continuous integration, you have to merge my commit. But you can make it better to put a red X on it and keep me out, but we have to make this work. And it's been a very rewarding journey. I've gotten to get some code contributions in, which is nice, but then it also changes that engineering mindset to, you have to deal with me as a coder using AI, and that's a very new challenge to think about how you solve problems with it. But it's been an overwhelming, tiring, but also fun journey to see what people can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, there's a couple different pieces of tension. There's the future of work tension that people are seeing. There's the kind of 5% GPU utilization tension, and how do we get from a token consumer to a token producer like you were talking about. And then there's the whole, hey, we spent the last 2-3 years talking about models. And this year, that's really shifted to inference and how do we make it applicable. The models, I mean, from what we're seeing, people are not going in and training, frontier models anymore. They're going in really using frontier models, and maybe they're fine tuning them and stuff. What do you see? Because like the model seems like it's kind of the engine of these AI agents, but where's the steering wheel? What's bringing that across for people?
Yeah, I think we've seen this, we've had the intuition this trend would happen. And I always say, you have 3 bands of models that are out there today. You have the 10 billion parameter range, the really small ones. They generally can't reason, but they can solve open-ended problems that are hard to code. And so they're very special purpose tools, but they're powerful, they run on cheap hardware. It's like the lemonade stand demo. Then the new area, and I talked about it with Nemotron Super, the 100 billion parameter range, they can start doing reasoning, actually very complex reasoning, and you can still run them fairly simply yourself. Then you have frontier models, which can do incredible things, but you're really not going to host them. That balance of saying, I have all 3 of these tools now available to me, is driving the, not just I can make an agentic workflow happen, but I can scale this out to my entire company. That for us was the shift from all frontier to 85% open weight models meant I can extend this to everyone at Red Hat. So that's what pushes you on inference and all these capabilities. It's just reach and potential of what you can do.
So the industry, one of the things we heard a lot about this morning on the main stage is choice and control. The industry feels like it's splitting into 2 camps, bet everything on one big AI provider or build for choice. Why do you believe choice is the winning strategy here?
I often tell people, like, AI, it's not a technology skill, it is a thinking skill that you have to build. How do you use this to amplify your thinking? I always get very nervous, like if that is how this skill plays out, I really don't want my thinking to be in control of just one thing. Like I need counter positions, I need to fact and cross-check areas, and so even if I'm in the all frontier camp, I have to have more than one. They're trained differently, they respond differently. That happens to be a very expensive camp. And so for us, we say the reason we think hybrid happens is you will need frontier model capabilities. In my case, 15%, I still have to hit those models, but I need to control my thinking. The reason we did a deep research agent, at the end of the day, we just wanted to control how it would think through these problems, and we could do that. If that's where this craft goes with AI, I think you're going to want choice to be able to implement how you think, how your business works, your intellectual property beyond like mechanics or code. It often comes down to thought and how you want to control it. So that's been really instrumental for us. We could shape that much better in things that we control. So.
Yeah, I think to me that's also good because of the fact that people have this tension with sovereignty and AI sovereignty.
Yep.
And sovereignty is more than just a place or a country or a region anymore. In fact, one of your customers was on yesterday from NTT Data. I loved it. They talked about having these AI embassies and these sovereign embassies that they're placing. How do you see sovereignty really helping organizations kind of, have that, get to the guardrails, I guess you could say around it?
I think one side is, you go back into that paradox of I'm able to run it air-gapped, offline, whatever you call it. Like I can run it on infrastructure I control, is one really critical aspect. And then the second one we talk about sovereignty is, I can shape the outcomes, and I'm comfortable in my ability to shape the outcomes. That's hard to do with the massive models. You can nudge them, they're very powerful, but they're hard to control. And whether you're using fine-tuning or agentic techniques, the smaller the models get, there's a trade-off, like you lose some world knowledge, but you can shape them. So for us, we see that power in saying when models are open weight and you know the data and you can shape them, you can make them right for you. And that is going to differ per country, that's going to differ per business, but that is a really powerful thing of, at the fundamentals, being able to control what makes that right in your domain. That I think is, we see that pull on the sovereignty, like national level, we see that pull on the enterprise side, and this is the first year where it has been the most real for us, saying like, we're actually doing this ourselves too, just as a company. We have to drive how we want to work, how we think with open source, not how somebody else thinks trained on the internet. So it's a good, I think it's a great initiative. It links well with open source, which we're biased, like that is our model. But I think it's very powerful for people to trust what they're getting out of AI as well.
And I may have been wrong, it may have been Core 42 who said that, but either way, I said I'm stealing that, because like that, the AI embassies and sovereign embassies is like such a, the concept is so easy for people to wrap their heads around, so love that.
Yeah, so as we're wrapping up here, you have spent your career at Red Hat. What do you want this AI chapter to be remembered for?
I think I started at Red Hat because of that pull of the individual potential that I saw in open source. So like, this is something I can put my fingerprints on and show the world what I can do. And it was really captivating. I was a consultant at the time. With open source, I can do anything with it. I want AI to end up in that same space, and so that the next generation of developers or accountants or salespeople say like, this is a technology that I can make work for me on it. I'm not beholden to it, it's not going to replace me in a way. This is an amplifier for me. And I think open source and like our model makes that really cater to the individual as well as companies, and that's the challenge for us, is to thread that needle for the world, to like make AI fit this open model and make it work for a lot of people as a tool. So hopefully we get to start that a couple years ago, but keep amplifying it today.
Excellent, well Matt, always so much fun to have you on the show. Thank you very much for a great conversation.
Thanks, Rob.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Rob Strechay. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of the Red Hat Summit. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.